Hey everyone, this is Steven here, back at it again with another video. In today's video, we're going to cover the sports card market and talk about whether we are in a correction or a crash. I'm going to give a brief market overview, as well as talk about why the market is trending downwards, and then some predictions on the market outlook, and then also what we can do during this downtrend. But before we get into that, if you enjoy this type of content and would like to see more in the future, please feel free to hit the like button and also subscribe. So now that we got that out of the way, we can get into the actual video. The four things I want to touch on are a brief market overview, and then I want to talk about why I personally think the market is trending downwards, and then I want to touch on my predictions for the market outlook moving forward, and then the last thing I want to talk about is what we can do in this current market environment. But the first thing I did want to mention, and this is more of a disclaimer, at the end of the day, no one really knows what's going to happen to the sports card market or any market in general. So please take this all with a grain of salt. These are just my personal opinions and my personal assumptions. I just used some of the data points that we had, and then I threw some assumptions on there. But again, at the end of the day, no one really knows what's going to happen in any market. So please don't just blindly listen to any influencer out there. Please do your own research on whatever market you're investing or looking into. Because again, at the end of the day, no one really knows what's going to happen in the future or in a specific market. So I did want to mention that. But with that being said, we can get into the market overview, and this is related to the sports card market. I'm just going to do a very brief generalized overview. So I just took the main players in each of the sports, so NBA, NFL, and then also MLB. I'm just going to briefly touch on it, but the trends are pretty similar. So if we look at Luka Doncic, we saw a huge rise in August of last year when he was making a big run in the playoffs, and then a dip, and then during the offseason it ticked up a little bit. Then we saw another peak in the December timeframe, and ever since then it's been trending downward pretty significantly. And we've been seeing that for pretty much every NBA player. There are some anomalies, but the overall trend is downward since about the anywhere between the December and February timeframe. The NBA cards have been trending downwards. And then now we can focus on MLB. So I just picked Fernando Tatis Jr., and this is his base Topps rookie card. And as you can see here, it's kind of the same trend. We saw the peak here at the start of the season, and then ever since then it's been trending downwards. That's pretty common in the MLB sports card market right now. We are seeing a downtrend. So far, NBA is downtrending, and then MLB is still in a downtrend. And then the last sport I wanted to touch on is NFL. So this is Patrick Mahomes, and this is his Optic rookie card, and this is his base. But again, the same theme here. It peaked in February, and ever since then it's been trending downwards. And again, this is just a generalization. I'm just picking three of the main cards, but I think that this does a good job at summing up the current market overview. And the main theme here is that sports cards have been trending downward, and we've been seeing a soft market since about the February timeframe. Again, there are some anomalies. Some cards have gone up due to performance or whatever, but overall, the three sports card markets have been trending downward since about February. So now that we have a quick overview of the sports card markets, and we can see that all three major sports card markets are trending downwards, I now wanted to briefly touch on why the market went up so fast in the beginning. So as you can see here, Luka's cards, and we'll go back to Luka here, but this is base Prism. At the beginning of 2020, you could get a base Prism for about $200, and at the peak, it was about $2,000 in August of 2020. So within a year, it went up from $200 to $2,000. So that was an extremely significant increase from the beginning of the year towards the later half of the year. So some of the main reasons why, and a lot of people have already touched on this, but we had COVID-19, so we had the lockdowns and restrictions. So a lot of people were stuck in their house for pretty much the last year with the lockdowns. So a lot of people had a lot more free time with being furloughed, potentially laid off. And then also on the weekends, they couldn't go out. So a lot of people were just stuck inside looking at cards, buying cards, getting back into the hobby. So I think a lot of people spent time looking at sports cards. I know I did. So that's one of the main drivers. Another driver is that we saw stimulus checks. I'm not sure how big of a factor that played in this, but the government was sending out quite a bit of money for the stimulus checks, and also the unemployment checks were pretty high depending on the state you live in. But overall, I think there's a lot of stimulus out there, so that could be attributed to the increase in sports card prices. And then another thing is we still did have influencers hyping up the sports card market. So we had, Logan Paul talking about Pokemon, Gary Vee talking about all the sports cards. I think that drove a lot of interest into the hobby at the beginning of 2020. And then another thing, and this is the last thing I could think of, but there was a lot of institutional buyers or institutional money. So there were bigger corporations that were now looking at this as an investment. So they came in and actually were buying up some sports cards or getting a piece of the sports card market. So there was just a lot of money flowing into the sports card market at the time with the lockdowns, all the stimulus money, influencers, and then also institutional money and buyers. Those are the main reasons for the increase. And then now we can see ever since that increase, we are seeing a market downtrend. So now I kind of wanted to touch on some of the reasons why I think the market is downtrending. And again, these are just my predictions and my opinions, so take these all with a grain of salt. But some of the reasons why I think the market is downtrending is when things go up too fast in any market, they just naturally have to come down. They can't just keep going up. That's not sustainable. So I do think that a part of this is just a healthy, normal correction or pullback that we're seeing, because things can't consistently just keep going up and up and up in any asset class. So they do have to take a cool off or pull down period. And I think we're seeing part of that, and that's just part of the normal ebb and flows of the sports card market. And then another thing is, and I think this is the biggest one, is the COVID-19 restrictions have been loosening up. So as you know, the vaccines here in the United States, so a lot of states are opening up their restrictions, so people are going out again. I know this is the case for me. During lockdown, I was sitting at home watching a lot of YouTube videos and buying a lot of sports cards. That's kind of what I did in my free time because we couldn't go out and do anything. However, now with these lockdowns, I'm going to baseball games, I'm going to breweries, I'm just getting out, doing a lot more stuff outside, and that's been really nice. But that leaves a lot less time for me to, be buying and looking at sports cards. So I've been doing a lot less of that since the lockdowns have been loosening up a little bit. And I think another part of that is also the fact that summertime is here. So a lot of people are going to be outside, and this is just speaking from my personal perspective, so a very small sample size, but I have over 4 weddings to go to this summer, and then also 2 bachelor parties. So that's half my summer there is just going to weddings, and then I also have some other trips planned. So I'm not going to have a lot of time to go out and be looking at sports cards as much as I would like to, unfortunately. But I think that is going to be one of the common things here is a lot of people are going to be wanting to go out outside of the COVID restrictions, and also the fact that summer's here, so it's getting very nice outside. So I think a lot of people are going to want to spend a lot more time outside with their family and friends. And then also I was at Fred Meyer the other day. It was actually yesterday on Memorial Day weekend, which is normally the busiest time of the day. I went around noon on a Sunday, and there was no one there. So that just kind of went to show that everyone was out of town. But again, it's a small sample size, but if you look it up, Memorial Day weekend brings big travel uptick as millions take to the skies for first maskless holiday of pandemic. So again, I think a lot of people are just wanting to get out, go travel, go do more things, and I think that's really going to, drive less interest and buyers into the sports card market. So I think that does play a pretty big factor. And then another factor that I see is PSA had a massive backlog, millions of cards, and those are currently getting released back, so they're getting sent back to their owners. And I think a lot of those cards are hitting the market, so PSA slab cards are flooding the market. So I think that has another impact on the market downtrend, because basically the supply is going to be greater than the demand. And we don't know for a fact, but the assumption is that a lot of the cards that were sent to PSA over the last year that caused the backlog were base cards. A lot of them were lower end cards. So I think the market is going to be flooded with a lot of these. If we look at this 2018 Prism base, there's already 17,000 PSA 10s. So I think a lot of these cards are going to be base cards that are going to be flooding the market. Supply for a lot of the base cards are going to be a lot higher than the demand. So I do see, once all these PSA cards start getting back, a lot of the owners are going to start selling. So I think that could cause another decrease in the base card market and the sports card market moving forward. So I think that does play a factor in that. The last piece of this is I think that we are seeing more intelligent investors and also collectors. A lot of collectors now and also investors are looking at the PSA population report. And I think now they're realizing, like, if we look at this Luka, there's 17,000 PSA 10s. So now they're looking at charts, videos, PSA population reports to say, why would I buy a card that has almost 20,000 cards in one grading system when I can just buy a short print or a serial numbered card of the same person, which is a lot more limited. That we are seeing investors get a lot more intelligent on what they're buying, and also looking at the PSA population reports to determine whether they should buy a card or not. So I do think that that also plays a factor in why the sports card market could be going down. So now that we went over some of the trends on why the market was trending upwards and then why the market was going downwards, I now wanted to touch on a brief market outlook and what I think is going to happen. But again, this is just my personal prediction and my opinions. Please take this all with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't think anyone does. And if they do, they're probably not telling the full truth. So with that being said, we can get into my personal predictions. So my predictions are that with summer here, and then with the COVID-19 restrictions loosening up, I do think that people are going to get out and go do a lot of things that they couldn't do over the past year. Especially with summer here, the weather's getting really nice. So I think people are going to be spending a lot of time outside with family and friends and not as much time inside, looking at sports card markets and cards. My personal prediction is that the sports card market is going to trend downwards until about the middle or end of summer. And I do think that that's going to be kind of where we hit the low point. That is going to be, where the market stabilizes at the end of summer is my personal prediction. I could be very wrong. That's just what I think. Once summer ends, I think people are going to get back inside and start looking at cards again. But the bigger question is, what is that bottom going to look like? I don't think it's ever going to go back down to the pre-pandemic levels where you can get a Luka Doncic rookie card PSA 10 for $200. The dollar amount, I don't know. I just think, we're going to see more healthy pullback moving forward until the end of the summer. I don't know what the percentage is going to be. I just see it trending downwards until, the middle or end of summer. That's just my personal prediction. But again, I don't think it's going to go back down to the pre-pandemic levels. And then once the market kind of bottoms out, I just think that that's going to be the new normal. I don't think that we're going to see these high peaks again, especially with these base cards. I just think that the market went up way too fast, way too quick, and that was a once in a lifetime thing with the pandemic and everyone sitting inside with the stimulus going around. I just don't think we're going to see those spikes again. I do think the market's going to normalize, towards the end of the summer is my personal prediction. And then from there, I think that that's going to be the new norm. We're going to get back to the normal ebbs and flows where the cards will go up in the off season and then trend down. And I do think that we're going to see the normal trends. I just don't think that they're going to be as fast of increases as we saw last year. It's going to kind of normalize the market, and then we'll see the same trends moving forward without just the higher peaks and the valleys. And then another thing that I think, and I mentioned this earlier, is a lot of investors and collectors are getting a lot smarter with, the population reports. So I do see a lot of weakness moving forward in some of these base cards, like this Luka, for example, with, almost 20,000 of these base rookie cards in a PSA 10. I think a lot of investors are starting to realize that, and I think moving forward, they're going to start looking at, short prints, serial number cards, and other alternatives to the base rookie cards with extremely high populations. So I do think that the base rookie cards with higher populations, I do think that they could struggle in the long term because there's just so many of them. But I don't know how much it's going to go down. I just do see some softness in the base rookie card market moving forward, as a lot of investors are going to focus on the serial number cards, which I think are going to hold up a lot better over time. But again, those are just my personal opinions. So now that we went over some predictions, I did want to touch on what I'm currently doing in this market environment. So like I mentioned earlier, investors are getting a lot smarter and looking at the population reports. So one of the things I've been doing is, one, is being a lot more patient, but two, I've really been focusing on serial numbered cards or short printed cards. I know they're more expensive and it's going to cost more up front, but I do think over the long term and even in the short term, those cards are going to hold up a lot better than the base mass produced cards that we're currently seeing. So that's the main thing I've been doing, is being a lot more selective. I've been really focusing in on a couple certain key players and focusing in on them. And then from there, I've even been narrowing it down to, serial numbered cards or short printed cards. And I only focus on rookie cards. But again, I've been kind of trying to stay away from the standard base rookie cards. And that's just, again, because the population reports that we're seeing are extremely high. So I've really been trying to focus in on some of the more short printed or limited cards. So that's the main strategy I've been looking at. And I've also been a lot more selective. I just haven't been buying as much lately. So I think those are the two main things for me that I've been trying to implement is, being a lot more selective, trying to search out really the best deals for me. And then also I've been really focusing in on more serial numbered cards and also more limited cards. But with that being said, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it was helpful. And if it was, please feel free to hit the like button and also subscribe. Thanks and have a good day. Bye.